All right, music fans, welcome back. It is I, Dave, your real music observer, observing real music in real time for real people just like you and just like me. The other day I was talking about how Journey's greatest hits had gotten into third place all time on the Billboard 200 as racking up consecutive weeks of chart success over there. It was coming in at number 101. The album in front of it, there are two albums in front of it, but the album directly in front of it, it's going to be a long race to catch it. And my estimation is the album in front of it will eventually catch up to the first place album. And I've got some reasoning as to why. But first, let me talk about that album. I glossed over it a little bit. Bob Marley and the Wailers' Legend album, which is a compilation, kind of like a greatest hits, but when you're talking Bob Marley, you're basically saying a best of, and we picked, 14 really good songs initially. Now there are deluxe versions of it. I think there are box set versions of it. Then there's a greatest hits compilation. But Legend, when it first came out, I believe, was 1984. And I'll tell you what, that's where I first heard Bob Marley. 1984, I was in college, and everybody on my college campus was playing Bob Marley. Our college radio station had a reggae-specific section with new reggae artists, pretty much all sort of based on the Bob Marley model. I couldn't go to a dorm room without hearing Marley. I just couldn't. I couldn't go to a party on campus without Bob Marley showing up, and people were having a good time. Let's put it that way. I never indulged in any of that sort of stuff, the Bob Marley, the ganja, as far as that goes. I love the music, though, and the music was it's just a happy, it's kind of like when you go to, I liken it to when you go to the Bahamas, and they offer you those little drinks in those little plastic cups, and there's rum in there, and when I went, we had these drinks that were called Bahama Mamas, and the rum is the happiest rum you'll ever drink with this mixture. You don't even know, and you don't feel it, and then all of a sudden you feel it, and it's like 90 degrees out, and there's the ocean, and just don't drown. It's just a great time. People walking up and down the beach, ladies, and they're serving these drinks, and, So I liken Bob Marley music to that. Other people will liken it to the stuff that they roll up and smoke. I didn't do any of that stuff. I don't ingest any smoke. It's just not my thing. But this Legend album, the reason it's in second place, and I think someday may actually catch up to Dark Side of the Moon. I know that's a wild prediction, but and it's going to take a long time for that to happen. The reason it might catch up is it's more universal. Where Dark Side of the Moon was this progressive, dark, not to just steal from the title, but that's the first thing that pops in. Great album rock thing that you listen to from start to finish, almost like a piece of art all the way through. The Marley album, I think, is more accessible because rock people like it. R&B people like it. People from other genres get into it. Eric Clapton obviously liked it a lot. But the track listing, too, whoever decided to cull these tunes, brilliant, because the album leads off with Is This Love, which is just a great song. No Woman, No Cry, which is one of my all-time favorites. The live version, that could have went on for 30 minutes and I would have kept listening. It's just something about it that was like a Peter Frampton thing going on there where it was just really that good. Could You Be Loved, and my favorite all-time Bob Marley tune, Three Little Birds. And then you got Buffalo Soldier, Get Up, Stand Up, Stir It Up, One Love, People Get Ready. That's a favorite for a lot of folks. Of course, I Shot the Sheriff, I Don't Want to Wait in Vain, Waiting in Vain. I mean, these are all tunes that you know. Redemption Song, Satisfy My Soul. Exodus, and we wrap things up with Jammin'. And Jammin's such a good... I mean, I don't know. It just reminds me, it takes me back to college. Friend of ours, Becky, who worked at the radio station, she was immersed in this kind of music. It just all the time, and she was one of the happiest people you'll ever meet. Smart, too. I mean, the IQ level of some of the Bob Marley folks at my college was very high. But the reason this is doing so well is it has this mass appeal. Marley, of course, sort of the musical martyr, passes in 1981, had a really aggressive form of skin cancer, a kind of rare form too, but it really, back then, they weren't doing those screenings that they do now back then, and it's too bad because he may have been around a lot longer if they could have caught that quicker. But he was just exploding. He had just released an album, and things were just going great. He was selling out places like Madison Square Garden. He was getting airplay on rock stations, mostly what I call the FM, more laid-back, deep-track album rock stations. He was getting some play on adult contemporary stations with things like Jammin' and Stir It Up. And I mean, I had heard most of those songs when I got to college. I had friends that had Bob Marley albums, and I always thought, hey man, I'm not going down in your basement to smoke anything, okay? I'm just going to hang out and listen, and that's what I did, and it was all good. But Marley is also a lot softer music. It's not going to bash you in the head. It's either good time. It's also very well played music. These were all great musicians. The percussion alone, those steel drum intros and stuff that just had this real pingy sound to it, it just pops, and and you know, reggae has got a beat, and probably either like it or you don't, but apparently there are a lot of people who completely love it. So I think eventually, you know, Journeys 2 is going to keep moving up, I think, as far as consecutive weeks. But Bob Marley has this universal appeal. Cultures, nationalities, races, countries. It's just more of a universal language of music. And it makes people feel good. And it's very accessible. So that's my video, Bob Marley and the Wailers Legend. Not only was it a great college album, but it's a great album now. And if you don't own it, you should go out there and at least download it. I know there's a deluxe CD, there's been remasters, and there's tons of music out there that was recorded, you know, live albums and so forth, but Legend is the one to have. All right, that's it for my video. I'm Dave. I am the Real Music Observer Man. And I'll be back again with more real music in real time for real people just like you and just like me and all of those Rastafarians out there. Talk to you later.